Hey guys, hope you're doing well. I wanted to take a moment and talk about how I became fluent in Spanish. So, if you're looking to become fluent in Spanish and you're like, where do I start? Or like, I have the basics, where do I go from here? Like, how do I work on my, my comprehension auditorily? I can help you out. So, here we go. So, essentially, a lot of the ways that I practice, I watch a lot of like movies in Spanish with the subtitles. The important part here is that you hear the Spanish and you see the Spanish. So we're kind of tempted, at least like me, I'm tempted to be like, oh, I got it, I'll just listen. But no, like see it and listen to it, because that way you'll be immersing yourself more. The key word here is immersion. You want to like have as many sort of senses going on at one time with Spanish. Usually it's like just listening and seeing things, but or speaking. But you want to like or reading too. But you want to have like enough of that going on at one time. So reading is really important. I like kind of a good way to kind of start is to read beginner books, or there are plenty of like beginner books for adults on like the Amazon store, Kindles, different things. Once you kind of get going for a while, you can start to do like even like young adult books if you're kind of like the intermediate level. There are certain books, like there's a guy named Ollie Richards who writes particular short story collections for beginners, intermediate, and then but see, that's the story part of it too, is the story format. So one of the ways that your brain learns language the best is by not just learning all the technicalities, obviously those are important too, but by applying them to context. So like seeing different ways of using phrases, verbs in a story context, very important. So reading is important. One thing that I do that I don't know if I hear a lot of people do is I try to like speak out loud, like first thing when I wake up, as long as I'm alone, right? Like if you're like in a crowded mall or something and you're like talking to yourself, people will be like, what's that guy doing? But if you're like in the car driving to work, just talk about what you're doing for the day, or talk about how you're excited for the day, you're gonna enjoy your day, whatever it is, or practice asking questions, whatever. But the more you talk to yourself, also the more that you can find native speakers in your community. Sometimes that can be hard, right? I mean, I live in North Dakota, so it's a lot of like German, Norwegian people here, but I guess I'm an exception. I guess I'm Norwegian. I speak Spanish, but there are language exchange apps like Tandem is a really good one. That's one that I use a lot. So communicating with people who are native speakers, and you can like match with people and kind of like and so part of it is like a give and take. So you might teach them some English, they teach you some Spanish, or whatever other language, and it's really cool there. And then also like watching movies and shows is really good. Listening to podcasts, listen to a lot of music, and especially too if you're reading like Pablo Neruda poetry, poemas en español, on your Kindle or something, or a book. It can be helpful to turn music in Spanish on too. So then you have like kind of like the double thing going, because then you're reading Spanish, but you're also listening to it. Now that sometimes works for me, but sometimes too it can get a little overstimulating. So in that case, just do one or the other. But yeah, so in essence, then movies, podcasts, shows, music like pop music or classical, Latina, whatever works, and then just like language exchange. Practice with as many people as you can. Maybe you have a friend who's learning with you, and you guys like go to coffee shops and only speak in Spanish, right? Or maybe you have like a Mexican restaurant in town with servers who are native speakers. So you go there with a friend or by yourself and only speak in Spanish. That can be a little tricky too, because you're kind of like, how do I introduce this? Literally just be like, hey, do you happen to speak Spanish? And they'll go, yes, or sí. Is it, estupendo, ¿cómo estás este día? And then they go like, oh, bien, bien. And they start to, like, they get so excited because, especially like in my state, you don't always expect it from, I guess, someone who looks like me. But anyway, yeah. So it's a lot of fun. Spanish is great. Spanish is wonderful. If you're a beginner, you still do all these things. But the grammar is important. It's definitely not the most important thing. The most important thing is the immersion, doing as much as you can at one time while still being focused, while still retaining everything. So if that means reading and listening to music, maybe you're watching a movie on Netflix in Spanish and reading the subtitles. Perfect, great. Netflix is really good too about like having the language option, so you can select Spanish. And it'll like do Spain Spanish, Mexico Spanish, whatever. It'll give you the options. So that's really cool too. Yeah. So really, just as much as you can while you're still able to concentrate. So if you've, I mean, don't have like three different movies going on around you. That's not going to be helpful. But listening, reading, watching. Try to focus. Try I know like one thing too. We tend to like translate in our minds to start, and that can be helpful for a while. But try to just kind of flow with it, and sort of get the point of it. Kind of get like listen for key phrases, key words, key ideas, so that you're not just sort of translating in your mind. Like I said, you might have to do that for a little while when you're listening or when you're speaking with a native speaker or your friend, but just do your best to like kind of get the idea, like kind of chunks of listening after a while. So yeah, Spanish is super fun. It's been like, I mean, it really has taken me like the last 10 years, but that's not to say it's going to take you 10 years. It's just I took some classes in high school, took a couple in college. There were kind of a lot of breaks in there when I was busy with other things. But really, just in like the last year or so, I've really gotten better at it and really just like focused on it. So, I mean, really, it's maybe like 2 years that it took, but just spread over 10 because you just can't do a little. I did a little here and a little there, and really focused in the last year. So you definitely don't need to do like 8 hours a day practicing like you might see on YouTube or something. I mean, you can, but it's like, who's got time for that, right? Duolingo is a good place to start. Don't stay on Duolingo, but go to Tandem, go to language exchange apps. Those are good too. So anyway, that was a lot of talking, but basically, you've got this. Spanish is great. It's awesome. Very fun to learn. It's great to be able to communicate with another group of people, like a whole ton of people around the world, or people in your community with whom you couldn't talk before. So it's great. So anyway, hope you're having a great day and enjoy. Disfruta de español mucho en tus días. Es estupendo.